back as a team because some kid at school kept betting on them against me.
Today's show is sponsored by Disney's Destino. This is a great film about Han Tardado alrededor de 50 años en su creación. Llega la gran esperada colaboración entre Walt Disney y el legendario artista surrealista Salvador Dalí en una impresionante experiencia visual que llamamos Aviadores, la unión de la balada mexicana Destino, junto a las imágenes surrealistas y la habilidad de Walt Disney para contar historias tuvo que esperar en 1947. Hasta hoy, gracias a la magia de la tecnología y la animación de Disney.
Are we not online for this?
Yeah, we are.
Good. La versión original de este corto fue premiado por la Academia en el 2003. Este extraordinario DVD, I have to finish, I started, I can't not finish. DVD incluye un nuevo y exclusivo documento que examina los orígenes de la amistad entre Dalí y Disney en la creación de...
Okay.
He was like 3 words away.
Welcome to the Spin Down Podcast.
I hope all of the people who might be watching thought that maybe...
Hey, remember the last podcast we did where we looked up and the only viewer the whole time was Electric Longboard?
Yes.
So that account is just a spam account that visits people. It's a robot and it visits people to get them.
Oh man, why can't we get... we should turn the audio down. We seem to be peaking slightly.
I think we peaked early.
Why can't we get Stay Hydrated bot to come into our chat?
What was that?
It's a bot that will look at how long you're live and then tell you when you should drink a cup of water.
Yeah, LSP was complaining about it, I think.
Alright, welcome to the Spin Down Podcast.
Hi
I'm
there.
Tiny.
I'm mad.
Unfortunately, I'm Nate Hoffman.
Andre's over there, but he decided not to be on the screen today. So why are we here?
I think the Pro Tour happened or something.
Yeah, I have to admit, I knew the Pro Tour was somewhere in the future. Now it's in the past, but it was in the future. And then it just kind of happened, and I didn't watch it.
So I didn't watch it either. News report of the Pro Tour, though, from what I understand, red, black, red, and also some red black.
Oh, there was also Esper,
Oh, okay.
and then more red.
Yeah, Goblin Chain Whirler, good card, supposedly.
That's the only card those lists seem to agree on, was Chandra, Torch Defiance, and the Goblin.
No, they're both very good red cards.
Yeah.
So, Matt, you have been the one that looked at actual Pro Tour deck lists.
Yeah, because you were talking about building a standard deck.
Yeah. The cool deck out of that top 8 would be the Esper list, where if you can't agree on what card's better to cast with Teferi or the Scarab God, why not just cast them both?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's the time-old tradition of why not both?
Spanish words.
Yeah.
I can't remember.
Those?
Yeah.
Andre?
I'm the one who just read a bunch of Spanish words.
Okay.
So,
Wow, this show is...
But I feel like we have a really good removal package in black. In the standard. Such as Vraska's Contempt, the card that destroys a non-legendary creature.
Cast down.
Yeah. And Fatal Push.
Yep.
And then we also have Settle the Wreckage in white, so...
That card's really good.
Yeah.
It's even good in Modern, which I think is pretty weird.
You can also play
but...
Cast Out, the sequel to Cast Down.
So, I just feel like the Esper deck has good threats and some good cards to cast.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. Because you said the deck has Gearhawks, right? Torrential Gearhawks.
Yep.
Scarab God, obviously great. Scarab God and back, Torrential Gearhawk, also good. Teferi is obviously a staple. Was the deck playing Karn at all?
I don't think it was.
Okay. Did it have Lilianas?
No.
Alright. Did it have
We
Counter
can...
Magic?
Alright, let's look up a list while we're here.
It had like Syncopates.
Hey, tech guy, pull up a list.
It was Syncopates, the Disallow.
Which allow?
That allow.
Oh, okay.
Data-allow. That's it.
Yeah, data low, I think is what you're trying to say.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. Which is the message you get at the end of every month from your cell phone provider. Oh, God. I can just sit here riffing puns off.
Also, it wasn't Scarab Gods in the deck, it was the Scarab God.
Yeah,
I apologize.
While they look up a list, let's riff off some jokes. Alright, so what does Gwen Stefani say whenever... Why am I looking...
Because you kept asking about it.
Oh, okay.
I didn't realize that they played Lindsay Bob. They don't... But Bob seems sweet. So it's literally just the Grixis energy list, but with white cards instead.
Yeah, that checks out. There is Greed in the deck. I like a good Greed. Arguel's Bloodfast being that. Which is a combination when you need a spell back but don't have a Torrential Gearhulk in the graveyard, but have one in play with a Scarab God. Because the flip side says sack a creature. So what you do, Matt, is you sacrifice a creature with your Arguel's Bloodfast that's flipped and says some other name on it. And then you have a Torrential Gearhulk in your graveyard, which you then target with your Scarab God. And then when it comes into play, it's enter the battlefield ability will happen. And you will get to target an instant in your graveyard and cast that.
Oh.
Yeah, so there's that. There's 26 lands. It plays Censor. Well, it plays Sense or... Look, guys, are we moving on from this topic?
Okay, so moving on. How about all those red decks? So, I know that there was kind of a big hoopla about the weird naming conventions for all the red decks, but I guess you were saying they were actually significantly different from each other?
I wouldn't go as far as saying significantly, but some of them liked playing the Eternalized guys. Some of them liked playing the dragons.
Oh, yeah.
I know from the little bit, I don't know if this is true for the Pro Tour, but there used to be a red-black vehicles list, too.
Yeah. Well, there was also a red... Like, it feels like the leftover of, like, a Mardu vehicles, where they played Scrap Heap Scrounger, Unlicensed Disintegration, Bomat Courier got added into some of the lists.
Did they have the red-black dude that pumps an artifact?
No. Because they don't have that many artifacts.
Yeah, it's probably Scrounger, like, maybe 4 vehicles.
Yeah.
It
looked like some of them were like 2 vehicles.
Most of them were 2 Heart of Khorans if they played vehicles.
Probably some number of Faither or 3-drop one.
In the sideboard for the most part.
I know the deck that came in first had Karns in the sideboard.
That card's pretty good.
Yeah, that was about the only... pretty sure that was the only sighting of Karn.
Did it have Karns?
It has Chandra. It might be the second place one.
One of them had Karns in the sideboard.
I know that there was almost a missed trigger that decided the Pro Tour, I heard.
Wow, I guess it's just common for a professional to play the Pro Tour now.
So, it wasn't a misplay, and it was not a missed trigger. People on Reddit, were claiming there was a missed trigger, but it was, he attacks with his, he rips the Glorybringer off the top to win, when he was going to lose the next turn. It was like one Glorybringer left in his deck that could win in the game there. He slams it and attacks and goes, trigger Glorybringer, target something, and then pauses for a second and then is like, oh, carries that trigger. Mm-hmm. So people were like, oh, he missed his trigger, he should lose. No. When in reality, the head judge made the correct ruling in that as long as you don't...
Move phases. Yeah. So as long as you don't move a phase, really, it's not too late.
Yeah, and like they account for, you can pause in your speech.
Yeah.
Because like, if you don't get to pause in your speech, then like people who stutter,
Sorry if you stuttered, can't play Magic.
Yeah.
And to be fair, stuttering already does probably make playing Magic fairly hard. Because speaking is tough when you stutter.
That is an interesting insight. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Things I wouldn't have known if we didn't have Hoffman.
Yeah, well, I'm here to keep things up
concise and on
I'm here. Today's fun fact of the day: stuttering makes speaking harder.
Wow.
At least this is in the top 10 episodes of all time.
No, I think we've rolled over the 10th episode. This can make it outside of the top 10 episodes.
Okay. Alright.
So what are your thoughts on that Goblin? I mean,
Chain Whirler?
Yeah, they've already banned a similar ish card.
Yeah, I do think if they're gonna ban a card for, because did we say what Goblin Chainwhirler does on?
No,
I don't think we did.
All right, so it's red, 3/3
first strike.
First strike.
Yeah, it's red, 3/3 first strike. When he enters the battlefield, it deals 1 damage to each opponent and each creature and planeswalker they control.
So, one of the big issues that some people have with Chainwhirler being a thing is that they banned Rampaging Ferocidon because of how it kept token strategy suppressed. Now, there are some things that I will say there are differences between Chainwhirler and Ferocidon. First off, you have time to get value out of your tokens before. First off, some tokens in Standard are not X1s.
Yeah.
You know, there's Embalm, there's stuff like that, where you get big tokens, but you just put a lot of things into play. Second, Chainwhirler is not as easily splashable as Ferocidon, whereas Ferocidon had a single red in its converted, like in its mana cost.
Yep.
Chainwhirler is red. That's, you don't splash that card. You're playing a red deck.
Well, and like with Chainwhirler, it only happens once.
Yes.
Where with Ferocidon, it happened every time a creature. Like, so you
Yes.
create a token, it dies. Create a token, it dies.
Well, no, it didn't deal damage to the token. It does 1 damage to the player.
Oh yeah, you're fine.
So you make a token, you die.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which is what that deck wanted.
But yeah, but it only it's a continual source of damage where Chainwhirler only happens once when Chainwhirler enters the battlefield.
Yeah.
Chainwhirler, I think on its own, is probably a higher power level card.
Mm-hmm.
First off, it combines better with other cards because having a first strike in a red deck is usually an advantage in combat scenarios.
Yep.
One, first strike is a good keyword. Hard to block, hard to deal with in and of itself. But then also it has the ability to take down bigger creatures when you have burn spells alongside of it, which creates harder combat scenarios for your opponent.
Yeah.
It also it combos well with itself in that, like, say your opponent has a 4/4 that you normally can't attack into with your 3/3. If you play another Chainwhirler, they just can't block your 3/3 for that turn.
Yeah.
Which, I mean, life swings like that for an aggressive deck. You're getting in 4 points of damage that turn. You're getting 4 points of damage in that turn, which is a fifth of your life, which matters a lot for an aggressive deck.
Yeah. Yeah, so
is it better or worse? That's definitely a tough question. I
it's
think
different.
Yeah.
Like, so I don't think that's the real question. The question is, have we reached the point where it's fine for them to ban card? Because, like, so if the philosophy is that we're okay with them banning cards all the time in Standard to keep Standard balanced, then yes, I do think it should be banned.
Because how many were in the top 8? I'm pretty sure most of them, if not all of them, played 4.
Yeah,
it's
there were 7
huge.
decks that had 4 copies.
Yeah.
So that's a
Also, I
pretty-
think this was the Pro Tour with the most of any basic in the top 8. Weird statistic.
But also, another thing you have to consider when banning a card like that from a deck is, first off, is that the reason the deck is the best deck? Which I'm not sure enough if it is, because Chandra, I'm sure, is in a lot of the red decks, and that's also a very powerful magic card. Definitely one of the best in Standard. It's good enough to see play in Vintage and in Modern sometimes, even.
Yeah.
And then I'm sure you could play it in Legacy too. There's also just the fact that the red decks are consistent, so mana is another issue. There's also just powerful removal spells in red. I mean, some of your best spells in the other decks in this Standard have splashed red for removal spells already. And now you have still similar and sometimes even better removal spells in the color red.
Yeah.
This might be some of the best red, like, burn spells that we've seen in Standard in a couple sets.
I'm not sure exactly what the red decks here play, but I mean, we have a Lightning Strike in Standard, which is a fine card.
We have
We
Shock.
have Shock,
Harness
Harness Lightning. We have Shiv and Fire, which I doubt is seeing play, but
Yeah.
I
We
mean,
have Cut to Ribbons.
yeah.
I think that was the removal suite, and then, like he said, they were splashing on Licensed Disintegration sometimes.
Yeah, there's
If
just,
you're playing Cut to Ribbons, they were playing Unlicensed Disintegration seemed to be how it broke down.
And I assume all the red-black ones were.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's
It's a combination of things. I mean, if you look back, do you think banning Siege Rhino in Con Standard would have made Abzan? It might have made it not.
I definitely think that yes, that would have.
But that deck was also a combination of it had all of the best cards.
Yes, but
Yeah.
I think Siege
I
Rhino
think
is.
getting rid of Siege Rhino probably would have made
Siege Rhino
that deck not
put it
the
over
best
the
deck.
top.
But that card was also, I think, way more over the top than Chain Roller is.
Well,
Let's take something like if they banned Abzan Charm, which was the best charm in Standard. Pretty much all of them saw play, but Abzan Charm was definitely the best. It killed all the creatures. It was a draw spell when you need it, and it could even pump your creatures. The one that came close to it was just Sky Charm.
I know.
And they had two very different purposes. But definitely, like, you ban a card out of Abzan, it still would have been the best deck, because it still just has a multitude of
Yeah, so it's just it's the problem with Standard in that it's a small card pool.
Mm-hmm.
It was both Tolarian Community College and Saffron Oliver pointing out that I think this Pro Tour peaked at 31,000 viewers, and the Modern Pro Tour peaked at 50,000 viewers. And he was pointing out how much better it was watching Modern than Standard just because it varies, whereas it was literally just the same matchups over and over again in Standard.
I definitely said that to you. I said that to you, I think, around the Modern Pro Tour. I'm like, Modern is just way more interesting to watch, because if this was a Standard Pro Tour, you'll watch the same matchups every round. And sure, maybe 1 or 2 rounds, that's interesting. Maybe I'll tune in to watch LSV play or something.
Yeah.
But I don't want to watch the red deck play every round. Especially not a red deck. Sure, maybe if there's some interesting mirror match in Standard, it might be more interesting. But just the matches don't seem that interesting anymore.
Yep.
So anything else to talk about for the Pro Tour?
So another thing that people were up in arms about that happened at the Pro Tour was it was Channel Fireball that showed up with green-blue Karn, correct?
Yes, yeah. At least one of their Channel Fireball
teams.
Yeah,
so one of the Channel Fireball teams showed up with a green-blue Karn deck, pretty much playing like Llanowar Elves.
It looked like it was basically a ramp-out Karn dot deck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Implement of Ferocity, can't forget that one.
Yeah, that card seemed really bad.
But the point of the deck was it was not a known quantity, so they were planning on it being a surprise to people. And they were hoping that it would be good against the metagame. But I guess after round 3, which there were 3 rounds limited to start the day, but so after round 3, but before round 4, Wizards previewed their blue-green Karn deck on stream.
Yes. Which gave up their whole strategy.
Yeah.
And so it definitely upset some people.
Yeah.
First off, because it's... and I definitely don't think it's anything that Wizards has. They obviously don't have anything against Channel Fireball. They gave them a monopoly of the GPs.
Yeah.
But it creates a strategic advantage where now your entire team, everyone knows what they're on. Which, in a medium-sized tournament, people might not know how to exploit that. But definitely, it matters.
Mm-hmm.
I think it matters less for Standard, but it still matters. But there's definitely, like, if people knew what I was playing, I usually play Storm in Legacy, and I would not vote for people to know what deck I was playing every round.
Yeah.
Because it changes how people keep their hands. They're just hands that, like, lose to some decks, which is unfortunate with Magic, but that's how it is. And knowing what your opponent is on saves you from that sometimes.
Yeah.
And if you know every single trick that they've got, you know, because, like, just because I can guess that you're probably on Storm doesn't mean that maybe you're trying something, like, one card different, and you have some little trick that you've added, and if I know everything...
Having your whole deck list up
especially the sideboard.
Yes.
Yeah, sideboards are significant, I think.
Yes, sideboard is a huge thing. Knowing what your opponent has access to deal with your threats afterwards, too. Yeah, I mean, like, I get... So, there were definitely 2 sides to the argument of, if you put your deck list in for the Pro Tour, Wizards has the rights to it, which I agree with.
Yes.
I think they have total right to do this, but does it make it okay for the competitive aspect? I definitely don't think so.
I saw some people make the point that maybe all deck lists should just be public knowledge, but that sounds like a logistical nightmare.
I mean, I'm sure it's not hard to put them on a database somehow, but getting them all on there fast enough sounds terrible.
Well, they could get them on there fast enough, but what is it, a 200 to 300 person tournament? Mm-hmm. So think about the round turnaround time where you're like, all right, pairings are up, and then everyone spends 3 to 5 minutes looking up what their opponents are on. So, and it's not like it's as simple as you just put on the pairing sheet that someone's playing blue-green Karn, because then, like...
Because, again, it matters what they're... If you're going to put up deck lists...
Yeah.
It's also hard sometimes to label archetypes.
Yeah, see the fact that evidently there were, like, 4 different ways that they labeled the red aggro decks of the Pro Tour.
Yeah, so if you're going to give some people that information, it's hard. I mean, like... Obviously, I don't think it mattered very much for that blue-green Karn deck.
It did not seem good.
Yeah, it looked sweet, but it did not seem good. But, I mean, like, it's definitely, it gives them a disadvantage against the field, and that's not fair to them.
Yep. Yeah. So, now that we've not quite complained, but definitely been kind of down on the Pro Tour, how about we complain about how one gets to the Pro Tour instead?
Yeah.
So what are we going to complain about now, Hoffman?
Well,
the fact that you have to play Magic to get to the Magic Pro Tour seems pretty awful.
You didn't say Hoffman. So I guess you told me about this. I thought it was kind of outrageous. I don't know a ton of the details, but essentially the way you get to the Pro Tour is you win a PPTQ, first step. This is one of the ways. You can also get
which is a local store, 30-person event.
Usually around that. You win a PPTQ, you get an invite to the original PTQ.
Which is normally a 100 to 200-person event.
Yeah, around there.
Yeah.
Like 70 to 200. Depends where you're at. Bigger city, more people, etc. You win that, you make it to the Pro Tour. It's not even win that. It's usually you top 4. It depends how many people show up.
Yeah.
But you go to that, you do well, you get an invite. But the issue is, now, that I guess Wizards is setting an attendance cap on our PTQs.
Well, alright, so to defend Wizards, kind of. The problem is stemming from the fact that the next Pro Tour is a Team Pro Tour.
Yes.
And they decided to make the RPTQ a team event for obvious reasons.
Sure.
So Wizards itself is not capping the RPTQs. It's the fact that they didn't do any homework into who they let run RPTQs. And all of a sudden stores just don't have... having it be a team event all of a sudden triples the amount of people that are going to show up. Mm-hmm. So, say you're a store that normally gets a 70-person RPTQ, all of a sudden now you're pretty much locked into a 210-person RPTQ.
Yes. And, I mean... For some, obviously, for a lot of stores, that's an issue. Let's take, so I know Top Deck is hosting a regional PTQ, which is a store that we've been to.
Yeah.
It's a very small store. They have room for maybe 50 people. I'm sure they can squeeze more in, but it's definitely, it would be very cramped.
Yeah.
And you're going to get more than that for an RPTQ.
Yes.
I know that whether it was a team win or not, he'll host it outside of the store. Mm-hmm. He has the means to do that.
Yes.
But not every store does.
Mm-hmm.
So I get that, but definitely it's kind of a crappy feeling to say, hey, I got a queue for the RPTQ, let's go. You get there that day and they're like, we're full?
Especially since, unlike a Star City Invitational, the invite to the RPTQ does not roll over to the next RPTQ.
Yes.
It was for this one and this one only. Because, there's cases say there's the store that covers, all of Florida that's doing the regional PTQ. They said that they're only able to host an event for 20% of the people in the region that queued for the RPTQ. So 80% of the people in Florida who queued for an RPTQ are having to go elsewhere or not play in the RPTQ.
Yeah, which, that's a big deal.
Yeah. Because, the other thing that people are complaining about is the fact that you're having to pay entry into the RPTQ now. But I think that's fine. That's defensible.
Yeah, sure. I mean, it kind of feels bad that you win an invite and then have to pay. But, the store is hosting your time. Mm-hmm. The store, Wizards gives you a card for it. Mm-hmm. Usually a valuable one.
Yeah.
They can't say it's valuable, but I mean, quotes, air quotes, everything goes on valuable.
Snapcaster, the last one.
So in Snapcaster,
this
then it was Liliana.
Yeah, this one.
And then this is Noble Hierarch. Yeah. So they're all good cards. Yeah. No, it was Liliana Snapcaster Noble Hierarch. Mm-hmm. My bad.
But yeah, so that's the big thing that people are up in arms about, are the fact that there's a bunch of people who won PPTQs that are just SOL. And so it would have been, I guess, not a super easy fix, but, like, they could have... One, I think it's, 5 minutes of thinking about the logistics, you realize that you triple the amount of people showing up to an RPTQ by making it a team event.
Yeah,
that's, super easy thinking.
You figure that out within two other people have to go with the person who wins an invite. Bam.
Yeah.
Now, I would probably say it doesn't quite...
Yes.
It doesn't quite triple, because some people will get an invite, take someone else who has an invite, but you assume it triples.
It at least doubles, I would say.
Yes.
So thereby you have to all of a sudden make up for all these people showing up. So you could have either required that any store that's hosting be able to host more people, or you could have limited the number of PPTQs that any one region has. Because it felt like they kind of just... Stores could run whatever PPTQs they wanted, and then Wizards kind of was like, oh wait, we don't have enough room.
Yes.
So that just seems like a very big oversight on their part.
Well, when I was scheduling events, like last year or whatever, all you had to do was click one button and you get a PPTQ on the date you clicked.
Okay.
Yeah, they can limit. They should limit the number. I think one that helps limit the size of the Pro Tour. Two, it helps with this kind of thing. I think the other big issue with it is that they have all the RPTQ dates, and this is something we discussed on our Talking About SCGCon video. Mm-hmm. They have all the RPTQ dates on one weekend, at least for our area. Mm-hmm. And there's no real options for a store to have, we'll have 2 dates, so people can split it up or something.
Because, God forbid you have a business trip that weekend, or you want to take vacation with your family exactly that weekend, things like that. Which, yes... Most other tournaments are just like that. But you'd think they could, especially when there's multiple RPTQs happening, they could spread it across multiple dates.
Yeah, or even give it to multiple stores for multiple dates. It's not that... think about our area in Pennsylvania. Let's name the stores that would be capable of hosting an RPTQ. Tales of Adventure, Top Deck, the Guild, honestly.
Yeah.
And this is just off the top of my head. There's...
Whoever's hosting it in Pittsburgh.
Yeah, whoever's hosting it in Pittsburgh. We don't know many stores in Pittsburgh. In the Baltimore area, there's almost every store we've been to down there is probably capable of hosting one.
Yeah.
It doesn't take much. There's a bunch of Philadelphia stores. Pretty much every store I've been to in Philadelphia is big enough to host one. Mm. There's a multitude of stores that are available that could host an RPTQ. Sure, I think that you should have some that have a good reputation.
Yes.
But there are places... Even most of the ones I named, I assume have a good reputation. Mm-hmm. So.
Yeah, so... I don't know what the likelihood of them having another Team Pro Tour is, but if they do have it, I hope that they figure out the logistics of this.
Yeah. And Team Pro Tour is definitely a very cool thing.
Yeah.
And I understand their logistical problems, but there's a lack of foresight, which is something I feel like is very common with Wizards nowadays, both in their problems with design and also with logistical things like this.
Yeah. But evidently, I read that Hasbro came out with a thing saying that in the last 5 years, Magic has doubled in money-making ability or something like that.
Which is good. It leaves more room for the game. It gives them more money to actually be able to hire more developers.
Yeah.
And hopefully, one big thing is hopefully pay their software developers more.
No comment on that.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, honestly, I think Moto's better than Arena is at the moment, but no comment on that.
I think that, first off, Arena's in a beta.
Yes.
Second off, I think if you took the interface for Arena, probably better than Moto. It just doesn't serve us.
Our purposes, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, I think think that was all that we wanted to complain about today. I know. So Andre, your new schedule starts next week.
Correct.
So are we just firing off another episode on Wednesday then?
Sure.
You guys get a bonus then. Congratulations.
So, and this weekend's Star City Con, so hopefully next week is just us talking about winning the Open and or the Legacy for Duels.
I'm definitely going to make sure to write down. I'm going to probably actually write down what happens in my matches.
Yeah, I'll probably do that as well.
I will too.
Thank you, Matt. I appreciate that.
Alternatively, we can just do a slideshow of this
the
sweet
dinosaur park.
Yeah, this dinosaur park that we're going to.
Because we're vlog it for YouTube.
Sure. We should definitely go on Friday. Yeah. Even if we have to because I do want to fire off a side event as well, so we should figure out what the schedule is for that.
Yeah, we can figure that out. Because we definitely don't have to be there very long.
Yeah.
Well, we should have time. Where is this dinosaur park? Why are we planning this on air?
Alright, so on that note, I'm Tiny.
Matt.
I'm Andre. Wait, I'm Nate.
That's Andre. You can find us at the Spin Down Podcast on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, Twitter, Patreon. I think that's it. So
didn't we list some other ones last time? Some less scrupulous sites.
So have a good day.
Bye, everybody.